Hello, neighbor. This is your favorite host, Chizoba Katie, and you are listening to Novels and Bits podcast. How are you doing? So this is the final part of Restore Me by J.L. Seegars. We've been doing this story and I really just wanted to finish it this week. And sister, today is also my birthday. I'm saying that in such a reduced voice because I'm recording this at a shared apartment and I don't think my flatmates actually know what today is. I mean, today being the release day. Hopefully it's released on this day. Anyhow, let's continue. So where we left off in the last part of the story, we saw it that Dom, he came to the club where Sloane is mourning the breakup. I mean, he hasn't broken up with her or anything, but just because she heard news that he has this project that he has to do in California for 2 years and he didn't tell her about it. She's already concluded he has given up on me. He has given up on what we have. This is over. So she goes out with Mel and they're drinking and dancing and Dom comes there and bodily takes her out and she's drunk. Now, on the ride back to her house, she accuses him of breaking the rules. He now asks which one and she refuses to say. By the time they park in front of her house, she blurts that, "I know the shadow of a woman has been haunting you." She doesn't want to hear anything Dom has to say in his defense because she already knows, okay? Dom explodes. "If you did know, I wouldn't have to tell you that you're the only woman who has ever owned any part of me. And it's always been you, Sloane. For 12 effing years, you've walked around with my soul clutched between the same fingers you wear Eric's rings on. You're the ghost I've been chasing. Now look me in the eyes and tell me you already knew that." She didn't. In her shock and overwhelm, she asked Dom to leave. Like, "Don't come in. Go away today." And Sloane doesn't remember her first college party, but she does remember Dom's voice asking her to call in the morning. However, that morning, her mother was in the room, dragging her to a sorority party and hissing at her to behave. They even had a face-off. Her mother was now telling her, "It doesn't matter. You're not here for boys and alcohol, Sloane. You're here to solidify your place in society as a well-bred, educated woman of value and substance. That is the only way you secure a husband and future worthy of the sacrifices we've made for you." She lashes at her mother back. This is happening at that sorority party, the morning after she met Dom at the party. 12 years ago when she was in college. That's when this is happening. She lashes back at her mom saying, "Is that what your sudden obsession with being a mother is about? Making sure I marry well?" Sloane's apparently had the best of everything except a mother. So when she tells her mom this, her mom slaps her. Her mom claims that Sloane's roommates are influencing her wrong. That's how Sloane wound up getting a room by herself because of her mother's connections. Her mother just felt, if you're alone in a dorm room by yourself, you don't have any influences. Sloane's own way of getting back at her mother was after she now met Eric. And she met Eric after this argument with her mother. She basically left the sorority party and ran into Eric in front of the library. Do you understand? And their relationship started and Eric wound up becoming kind of her roommate, her partner, her boyfriend, eventually her husband. That's how the whole thing happened. Now, in the present day, Sloane's father calls her dad, Mark, calls her to join a brunch. So Sloane sees it as an opening to find out the truth of the morning from her mother. There's been no word from Dom, and Sloane's mother notices her anxiously staring at her phone. Now, her mother now asks her if she's expecting anyone special to get in touch. And her mother was now saying, "Darling, you haven't been in a serious relationship since your marriage ended. And I don't need to remind you how hard dating is after a woman turns 30. So Sloane now replies to her mom, "My marriage didn't end, Mom. My husband died. There's a huge difference." Sloane lashes out that her mom has always minimized her grief because she didn't like Eric, because he didn't come from money. She's fighting for Dom, who was torn apart for 12 years, loving her, but resigned to letting someone else have her. Dom lived in hell of her mother's making. Now, in the middle of this brunch, because they have guests, it's not just Sloane's parents and Sloane right now. There are other people there, and her mom cares so much about her parents. So with Sloane raising her voice at her mom is now like, "Can you just shut it? Okay?" And again, this part of the book makes me wonder, how did Sloane's father, good Mark, like she's always described her father as a good person, how did he end up with such an awful woman? I recently read this book by Rebecca Yarros and Jay Crownover. They co-wrote the book Boy in Love, Girl in Love. And in that book too, we see that the main girl's father married another woman. And the woman is awful. but the main girl's father is actually a good person. So how is it that good, wealthy men who should know better end up with snakes as wives? Honestly. Now, Sloane does get the truth that her mom actually trashed Dom's notes. Like, she saw the notes and put it in the trash. Like, if you were dressed like a whore last night, that means you only met a man that is likely drawn to that type of thing. So that person is not deserving of you. So she trashed Dom's notes. Sloane's mother is now telling Sloane, if you've just listened to me, to mother who knows best, you wouldn't be a 30-year-old widow working on Saturdays. Sloane is so done with her mother. Now, Dom in his apartment by himself, he's drinking the vodka his father pushed into his hand. He finally caved into that demon. He's hopeless, recalling Sloane's horror when he told her the truth and how she asked him to leave. He recalls when she said she would never fall for anyone besides Eric. He tried to change all of that, tried to make her love him, but no. Now, he just thinks it's better if I move away. I can't be in New Haven without running to her. Actually, now I know how she tastes. Before he's never had a taste of her, but now that he knows, it's like, I cannot bear to be in proximity, okay? He already agreed to Sebastian Adler's request that he's going to oversee the construction in California, that he just can't stay here. Now, there's a knock on the door. He doesn't expect it to be Sloane, but it is, and she's in casual clothes. She's shocked he's drinking, and he's not trying to be nice. She's never come to his place before, because the whole Eric used to live here thing, before they got married, the place reminds her of him. Dom is feeling resentful, really. And his thoughts are revolving around him, thinking, I hate myself for allowing my mind to linger for even a second on how the spectre of his ghost robbed me of nights with her in my bed, for resenting her loyalty to him in debt, for being angry at her for deciding that today of all days was the right time to prioritize me over his memory. And she's always wearing Eric's rings, even now. Like I said in the last episode, I would honestly pick another woman for Dom. A less complicated woman who can be all about Dom, not with late husband baggage, honestly. I'm not saying that to minimize her grief. That's what Sloane is going through. But I'm saying this because I want to protect Dom so bad from this whole horror he's facing. Now, their conversation reveals he actually went to see his dad on the day he didn't sleep beside her. That day that he left and she was thinking, after she asked the tattoo question and he left and she was just thinking what she was thinking. She reveals too that her mom trashed his notes and wonders why he never spoke up. Dom feels hope. She actually revisited that and found out the truth. But he squashes that hope he's feeling by saying everything happened like it was supposed to. That he and Sloane were never meant to be together. She's now saying, you don't know that, Dom. We never had a chance. You didn't give us one. You saw me with Eric and you didn't say anything. You just treated me like shit. Why? So this, he explodes. Because he was my best friend, Sloane. My brother. What was I supposed to do? Steal you away from him? Tell him about our first night together and beg him to let me F you first? It's just a huge outburst. Now, Dom and Eric are different. Eric is the soothing kind, while Dom is chaos. So this, Sloane is thinking that Dom always gives her space to be angry and be a little more reasonable. Before they were them, she used to think he got his sick satisfaction out of striking the match and watching her burn, but now she knows his fascination with her fire is because of how closely it resembles his own. Eric was her better half, but Dom is a mirror image of her soul, the place where all her shadows and every burst of flame is known, understood and loved. Of course, there are differences in her relationships with both men, but she doesn't think one is better than the other because the result is the same. To this, look at my commentary. This is a complication of romance novels. This is realistic, okay? That it's true you can love one person and still, when that person dies, like you lose them in death, and years later you find love with someone else, that you can still love both people, and it's not a betrayal one to the other. But me reading the romance novel, my heart is trashing in my chest because I want her to pick the guy in front of her. Why was she and Eric so perfect for each other? Normally in stories like this, the ex would be one imbecile like that we can just make out to be a bad guy, that somehow good women fall for bad men too. But in this case, Eric was literally perfect. He died in that representation of a saint. Dom cannot compete with that ever, okay? Now, in present again, Sloane now asks Dom why he got the tattoo if he's so convinced that they wouldn't work, because now she knows the tattoo is about her. She really drives that point home, asking him, you don't do anything without a reason, so tell me why. If you were so friggin' convinced you were so bad for me, so determined to believe I was the best version of myself with Eric, why would you get a permanent reminder of that night? To this, he just roared, so I could remember to hate you. He throws his hands in the air like he's physically releasing the truth. You forgot me. And out of all the men on the planet, on that effing campus, you found Eric. The one person I would never try to steer you away from. Not even if it meant watching you fall in love with him or standing beside him while he made you promises. Oh my gosh, romance stories are just a typical example of the heart wants what it wants. Dom paints himself as a jerk who lost it after his best friend's wife. The result is fury on Sloane's end. She gets him. Parallels between their childhood. Both of us grew up with one parent whose unconditional love wasn't enough to shield us from the damage of their narcissistic partners. And as a result, we grew around the shadows they gave us, walking around like open wounds, looking for any excuse to turn a spark into a flame. It's no wonder he took one look at me that night and felt relieved. I can't say I understand why you didn't say anything all those years ago, but I'm thankful you didn't because it gave me a chance to love Eric before his life got cut short. It gave you a chance to love him too. Even in the moments you were bitter and jealous and hating both of us for having each other. I don't know why things worked out the way they did for us, but I'm not sorry. Because in some way, I know I couldn't have been yours if I wasn't his first. My gosh, what? I mean, that last part gave me pus. I couldn't have been yours if I wasn't his first. Excuse you? Why? What's that twisted logic? Oh my gosh. Anyhow, Sloane goes ahead to confess her love for him and he is pained. Moments drag by as she's waiting for him to reply to this. He now tells her this is over. She's leaving the building, that is Dom's building, with tears in her eyes when she runs into Kristen of all people. Oh, Dom's ex who hates Sloane. Now, to explain how she looks, Sloane has to just lie that, oh my gosh, that I slept over at Ash's, because we're together, and I needed to drop something work-related for Dom, so that's why I look the way I do, okay? Because you hardly see Sloane not look anything less than prim and proper perfect. Kristen has a smack of a person who has the upper hand. Cough. She actually does cough. Because she's a person with Ash. Kristen is a person with Ash, sleeping with Ash. So she knows that if I'm doing Ash, there's no way you're doing Ash, okay? So you're lying. She knows. Anyhow, a week later, Sloane is moping around her house when Mal shows up. Sloane lies to Mal that her and Ash broke up. That's just why she's just been down. Mal mentions that she actually ran into Kristen yesterday. And Kristen mentioned the oddest thing, that Dom broke up with her at the same time he started a new project. Implying that Dom's actually been with Sloane. Okay? Because when he started the project, he got together with Sloane. So Sloane just has to admit that it's true. That I have been with Dom. I was with Dom through the duration of the project. And she's waiting for Mal's thunderous reaction, except it doesn't come. Instead, Mal wants to harm Dom for hurting her best friend. So to this, Sloane just tells Mal, I don't want you to kill him any more than you want me to kill Chris. They pull back, they look at each other. Mal's eyes shine with a kind of understanding that can only come from a woman who's living with a broken heart as well. Well, Mal's eyes, I guess the bastards get to live another day. Mal won't let her grieve the loss of our relationship alone though. Now, a few days later, Dom shows up to see Sloane. He's uncertain, he's fearful. When she turns on him with rage, he begs to come back and ask her for another chance. Her reply, I can't. Wow, I feel like a dagger was just like... This part, I was just bleeding all through, y'all. I was bleeding. Now, 3 weeks passed. Sloane hasn't laid eyes on Dom, but she's heard from him every single day. Text messages she won't allow herself to read. Notes that are always attached to flowers or other gifts he has delivered to her house. Voicemails and audio messages she forces herself to delete because she knows the moment she hears that smooth, dark rasp, she'll be a gunner. Now, finally, is the night of La Granue opening. Mal is very interested in what she's wearing. That is what Sloane is going to wear to that La Granue, that project they did for the hotel, James's hotel. This is the opening night of that hotel. Now, Mal even gives Sloane a dark gown with sheer corset. Sloane is nervous that she's going to see Nick, that is Dominic, at this opening night, but Mal just tells her, Nick is not going to be there. Like I said, every other person calls him Nick, but Sloane normally calls him Dom now. And Sloane feels disappointed. The event is a blower, and Sloane just wants to go home. That's when Mal reveals that Dom is waiting for her outside. Mal actually played matchmaker tonight because both of them have just been so miserable. But honestly, I friggin' do not like Sloane at this point in the book. Why do you have to make Dom suffer? This guy has suffered 12 years, and you have to put him through, a month of misery just because he didn't get back to you in a week. So dude cannot lick his own wounds. You're the one who has to be your princessy, and he has to chase after you. I know I'm supposed to be rooting for her, but I was so friggin' annoyed at her. Just because he rejected you one time and told you it's over. all the pain he went through 12 years ago. What did you suffer? Are you feeling how irritated I am at Sloane? I do like her very much towards the end of this book, but we just have to finish the book. Honestly, if you share my feelings, let me know. Anyhow, let's just finish this book. Let's finish the story. Now, Dom is in dark charcoal suit matching Sloane's gown. So that's when it dawns on her, oh my gosh, some of the mall was so interested in what I'm going to wear. Because Dom actually got the dress for Sloane so that they'll be wearing matching clothes. Gosh, I love this because as a person who is not a great planner, if my man can do this for me, like get us matching things all the time and all I just have to do is show up. Yes, please. Like my ultimate dream is to be a guest at my own wedding. Like that's how much I do not want to be involved in the planning. But God gives me grace. He gives me wisdom. Okay. So let's go. Now, Dom drives them to a coveted corner of town, like, a coveted area of town. And the foundations of a house under construction has candles lit around it as a romantic gesture. It's actually from an episode of Grey's Anatomy she watched with him. Apparently she's a big fan of the show and she used to kind of pull him to watch the show with her. Now, Dom proposes and she wants to pull off Eric's ring to put on his own ring, but he stops her. Dom actually helped Eric pick a ring and it's that same jeweler he contacted to make another ring for Sloane. It matches what she already has, so she wears all three. Unconventional but deeply meaningful. As for the house, it dawns on her, this is a secret project you've been working on. The one you wouldn't give me any details about. You were never going to California. Girl, is this dawning on you right now? He now says that he was never actually leaving her. And he told her that he's going to need her help with this project. Like her designer abilities to set up their home together. Now together they go to visit Eric's grave. Dom deliberately stays behind under ruse of finding flowers so that Sloane can have some private time with Eric. Sloane is thinking to herself, Dom was the one holding the needle that stitched my heart back together. And he'd done it quietly, carefully, and at great cost to himself because he knew there was no hope in finding the piece of my heart I'd lost 4 years ago when Eric died. So he gave me pieces of his instead, using them to put mine together again to make me whole, to restore me. I don't know why I'm crying, but God, Dom just went through so much for her. Now they're getting married. That is Dom and Sloane. Chris is the best man and Mal is maid of honor. Something is going on between those two, their own drama. They have their own story, but I'm not interested in reading it. If you are, knock yourself out. This is the end. Next episode, we're going to start with the story. I want to do This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan, but there's a fantasy story I recently read. I'm still in the middle of reading the series, although it's only book one I'm going to tell on the podcast for now. So I'm just kind of like, which one should I share first? Anyhow, please, you could vote and let me know. I'm going to actually publicize it a lot so that you can get a chance to vote. Now, this is me who has to go and get ready, like wash my hair and leave early so I can get my hair done before I go to work at 1. This is 9:30. Alright, I love you so much for listening and I love you so much even if you haven't listened in a long time. We are listening for the first time. Thank you, neighbor. You make me keep publishing these episodes. Bye!